Let me tell you something real today, something most people won't say out loud. Men are not drawn to noise. Men are drawn to energy, and the kind of energy that stops a man in his tracks. That's dark feminine energy. Now don't get scared when I say dark. Dark doesn't mean evil. Dark means deep, controlled, confident, and mysterious. It's the kind of woman who doesn't beg for attention. She commands it without asking. The first thing men can't resist is mystery. A woman who doesn't explain herself to everyone. She doesn't overshare her pain, her plans, or her next move. She lets people discover her in layers. See, when a man feels like he has to earn access to you, his respect rises automatically. A woman who knows when to stay silent has more power than one who talks too much. Let me tell you something real today, and I want you to listen closely. This is one of those truths people don't like to say out loud, but it governs attraction more than looks, more than age, more than anything else. Men are not pulled in by constant availability or loud explanations. Men are pulled in by mystery. And when I say mystery, I'm not talking about playing childish games or pretending to be someone you're not. I'm talking about the quiet power of a woman who understands that access to her life, her emotions, her thoughts, and her time is earned, not handed out freely. A woman who carries mystery doesn't rush to explain herself. She doesn't feel the need to justify every decision or narrate her entire story to people who haven't proven they deserve it. She understands that when you reveal everything too quickly, there is nothing left to discover. And discovery is what keeps a man curious. Curiosity is what keeps him engaged. When a man feels like there are layers to you, like there is more beneath the surface that he hasn't reached yet, his interest deepens naturally. He leans in, not because you asked him to, but because something inside him wants to understand you more. See, a lot of women are taught that being open all the time is a strength. But openness without boundaries turns into emotional exposure, and emotional exposure without trust leads to regret. A mysterious woman knows when to speak and when silence says more. She doesn't rush to respond to every message. She doesn't fill every quiet moment with unnecessary words. She's comfortable letting pauses exist. And that comfort unsettles men in a good way because it signals confidence. It tells him she isn't afraid of losing his attention. She knows her presence alone is enough. Men are wired to pursue what they don't fully understand. When everything about you is predictable, when your reactions are guaranteed, when your availability is constant, the chase disappears. Mystery keeps the chase alive without effort. It's not manipulation, it's self-respect. It's knowing that your inner world is valuable and not everyone deserves a guided tour on day one. A woman with mystery doesn't rush intimacy, emotionally or mentally. She lets things unfold naturally, allowing a man to invest time and energy if he wants access. There's something powerful about a woman who doesn't overshare her pain. That doesn't mean she has no pain. It means she chooses carefully who gets to see her wounds. Men notice that. They sense that this is a woman who has depth, who has lived, who has felt things deeply, but who hasn't allowed those experiences to harden her or turn her bitter. Instead of trauma dumping or constantly revisiting old heartbreaks, she holds her past with grace. That restraint creates respect, and where there is respect, attraction follows. Mystery also shows up in how a woman moves through the world. She doesn't announce her plans loudly. She doesn't broadcast every achievement or every struggle. She lets results speak. Men are drawn to that quiet assurance because it feels stable. It feels grounded. A man may not be able to explain it, but he feels safer around a woman who isn't constantly seeking validation. Her calm makes him curious. Her restraint makes him wonder what else lies beneath. A mysterious woman also doesn't chase clarity too quickly. She allows time to reveal intentions. She observes more than she reacts. Instead of interrogating a man about his feelings too soon, she watches his actions. That patience gives her leverage, not over him, but over her own emotions. Men respect women who don't rush to label things or force direction. It signals maturity. It tells him she's not desperate for connection, she's selective about it. And here's the part most people miss: mystery is deeply tied to self-worth. A woman who knows her value doesn't feel anxious about being misunderstood by everyone. She doesn't need universal approval. She understands that being fully known by the wrong person is more dangerous than being partially known by the right one. So she protects her energy. She chooses presence over performance. And that choice makes men lean in because they sense there is something rare there. Men can feel when a woman doesn't need their attention to feel complete. That independence creates intrigue. It raises a silent question in his mind. What kind of life does she have that doesn't revolve around me? That question pulls him closer. Mystery isn't about withholding affection. It's about allowing connection to grow at a pace that honors your worth. When a man has to earn emotional access, he values it more once he gets it. In the end, mystery is not about hiding who you are. It's about revealing yourself intentionally. It's about understanding that your story, your heart, and your presence are precious. When you stop giving everything away too soon, people begin to appreciate what you offer. And men especially are drawn to a woman who understands that some things are best discovered, not explained. Second is emotional self-control. Let me say this clearly. Men admire a woman who can feel deeply but doesn't lose herself emotionally. You can care, love, and still walk away from disrespect. When a man sees that you won't chase him, won't beg, won't fall apart if he leaves, that's when he realizes your value. Peace is attractive. Desperation is not. Let me be honest with you, because this is something most people don't want to hear, but it's the truth. Men are irresistibly drawn to a woman who has emotional self-control. I'm not talking about being cold or unfeeling. I'm talking about a woman who feels deeply, loves deeply, but doesn't let her emotions run the show. Men can sense chaos. They can sense desperation. They can sense someone who reacts impulsively. And let me tell you, nothing kills attraction faster than emotional instability. A woman who has her emotions in check, who can navigate life with grace, even when her heart is full, is magnetic in a way that beauty alone can never achieve. Men are wired to respond to strength, but they often mistake emotional reaction for weakness. When a woman loses herself in anger, in jealousy, in sadness, she sends the message that her peace is dependent on someone else. That's not attractive. But when a woman experiences the same emotions, acknowledges them internally, and responds thoughtfully rather than impulsively, she exudes power. Men notice that because it signals that she is self-sufficient. It tells him that being with her isn't about filling a void, but about complementing a complete, confident person. Emotional control is not suppression. It's mastery. It's the ability to feel intensely without allowing feelings to dictate actions that compromise your dignity. Think about it. The woman who panics when she doesn't get an immediate text, the woman who spirals when a man is distant, the woman who cries or lashes out at the slightest provocation. She creates tension, not attraction. Men are naturally protective, but they aren't drawn to chaos disguised as passion. They are drawn to women who understand that life and love have rhythms, and that sometimes patience and calm are far more seductive than reaction. Emotional control doesn't mean detachment. It means knowing when to engage, when to observe, and when to step back to maintain clarity and composure. That clarity is what men can't resist. A woman with emotional self-control knows that her worth is not determined by a man's attention. She knows that her happiness is her responsibility, not his. And when a man sees that, it sparks something in him: respect, admiration, and yes, desire. He realizes that this woman won't tolerate nonsense. She won't chase. She won't grovel. She won't lower her standards to keep someone around. And that, my friend, is a quality that men notice immediately because they don't often encounter it. Most people compromise, overreact, or beg for validation. But a woman who holds her emotional center with poise, no matter the situation, becomes unforgettable. Emotional self-control also shows up in the way a woman communicates. She can express feelings, even intense feelings, without turning them into accusations or ultimatums. She doesn't use emotions as weapons, and she doesn't try to manipulate someone's guilt or attention. Instead, she speaks with clarity, with intention, and with a sense of self-respect that tells a man, I feel deeply, but I am not at the mercy of my feelings. That is disarming in the most irresistible way. Men are drawn to women who can communicate strength through calmness rather than chaos. Another aspect of emotional self-control is resilience. Life is messy. Relationships are messy. A woman who can experience heartbreak, disappointment, or conflict and still maintain her dignity is magnetic. She doesn't collapse under pressure. She doesn't let setbacks define her. She demonstrates to men that her life is complete with or without them, which paradoxically makes them want to be a part of it even more. Emotional control is not about shutting down. It's about holding yourself together so you can choose the next move wisely. Finally, men are drawn to a woman who can create emotional stability in their lives. When they are around someone who is unpredictable in a way that is negative, it drains them. But when they are around someone who is calm, consistent, and emotionally mature, they feel understood, respected, and safe. That safety doesn't make a woman boring. It makes her irresistible because it signals intelligence, strength, and confidence. Emotional self-control is one of those traits that separates the unforgettable women from the ordinary. It's subtle, but the power is enormous. A woman who can feel without losing herself, who can love without dependency, who can experience life's highs and lows with grace. That woman doesn't just attract men, she commands them. And that, my friend, is why emotional mastery is not just a trait, it's a magnet. Third is confidence without loudness. You don't need to announce how strong you are. You don't need to compete with a man. Dark feminine confidence is quiet. It's in how you walk, how you pause before you speak, how you're comfortable being alone. Men feel that energy immediately. It tells them, I choose you. I don't need you. Let me tell you something, and I want you to hear this loud and clear. Men are drawn to a woman who doesn't feel the need to prove herself. I'm talking about quiet confidence, the kind of confidence that doesn't need applause, validation, or constant recognition. You see, the world teaches women to compete, to shout, to announce their strength. But real power, the kind that makes a man stop and pay attention, comes quietly. It's in how she carries herself, in the pauses between her words, in the calm certainty of her presence. Men can feel it. They don't always understand it, but they recognize it immediately. A woman with quiet confidence doesn't need to dominate a conversation to be heard. She doesn't have to brag about her achievements or belittle others to stand out. She knows her worth without announcing it, and that is incredibly attractive. Men are wired to notice authenticity, and when a woman exudes confidence naturally, without forcing it, she becomes magnetic. It's subtle, but it's powerful. A man doesn't fall for noise. He falls for the energy that says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to be me. That energy is like a beacon. Quiet confidence also shows in the way a woman handles attention. She doesn't chase it. She doesn't need it, but she knows how to command it when necessary. A man will notice the way she walks into a room, not because she's screaming for attention, but because her presence alone makes people take notice. There's a certain power in that. Power that comes from knowing your value and not depending on anyone else to affirm it. Men are drawn to women who hold themselves with dignity because it signals that they are whole, that their happiness and self-worth do not hinge on anyone else's approval. Another aspect of quiet confidence is poise in conversation. This woman speaks thoughtfully. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't feel the need to prove her intelligence or superiority in every interaction. Her words are measured, intentional, and meaningful. And here's the thing, men respect that. When a woman can listen, understand, and respond without overcompensating, it creates a level of respect and intrigue that is impossible to manufacture. She doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the most memorable. Quiet confidence also manifests in boundaries. This woman knows what she will and will not accept. She doesn't compromise her values to please someone else. She doesn't tolerate disrespect or games. And yet, she expresses this with grace rather than aggression. Men notice this immediately. They feel the difference between a woman who is reactive and one who is self-assured. When a woman sets boundaries without anger or neediness, it signals strength, maturity, and stability, all of which are incredibly attractive to men. Independence is another hallmark of quiet confidence. A woman who doesn't need validation, who can enjoy her own company, who has her life in order, doesn't make a man feel like he has to fill a void. Instead, he feels drawn in because he sees her as someone complete, someone with substance. That quiet confidence says, I am whole. I am strong. I know my value. If you want to be part of my life, you'll meet me on that level. And that is irresistible. Men are also drawn to women who carry themselves with calm assurance, even in difficult situations. When challenges arise, a woman with quiet confidence doesn't panic or overreact. She assesses, she adapts, she responds, and she does so with grace. That stability is magnetic. Men want to be around someone who can handle life without creating chaos because it gives them a sense of security and admiration. Quiet confidence is not arrogance. It's not about showing off. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about knowing your worth and expressing it through presence, action, and energy rather than words alone. Men feel it in their gut. They are drawn to it instinctively. And when a woman moves through the world this way, she doesn't just attract men. She commands respect, admiration, and desire without ever having to chase it. Fourth is selective softness. A woman with dark feminine energy is soft, but not to everyone. She doesn't give access to her body, her heart, or her nurturing side freely. When a man earns that softness, he values it. Men protect what they worked for. That balance of warmth and boundaries keeps a man emotionally invested. Let me tell you something real about attraction that most people never talk about. Men are drawn to strength, they're drawn to confidence, but what they truly cannot resist is softness that is reserved, intentional, and selective. Now, don't get it twisted. This is not about weakness. This is not about giving yourself away to anyone and everyone. No, this is about a woman who knows her worth and chooses carefully when, where, and to whom she gives her heart, her affection, and her vulnerability. That's what makes her magnetic. Think about it. A woman who is soft with everyone loses her power. If every man can access your warmth, your attention, your intimacy freely, then there's no value in it. It becomes ordinary. But a woman who is selective, who lets only those who respect her, appreciate her, and prove themselves worthy into that sacred space, is irresistible. Men can sense it. They instinctively know when a woman has boundaries around her heart and they respect it. They are drawn in because they recognize that earning her softness is a privilege, not a given. Softness is not about being passive. It's not about saying yes all the time or letting people walk all over you. True softness is controlled, conscious, and powerful. It's about being warm, loving, and nurturing, but only when it is deserved. A woman with selective softness can show affection, care, and intimacy, yet she doesn't overextend herself. She doesn't chase, she doesn't plead, and she doesn't compromise her standards to satisfy someone else's ego. That balance of strength and softness creates tension, attraction, and intrigue, a combination that men find impossible to resist. Selective softness also shows up in the way a woman handles intimacy. She doesn't give her heart or body to someone just because he asks. She observes, she waits, she evaluates. She allows a man to demonstrate commitment, respect, and effort before granting access to the most vulnerable parts of herself. Men notice that. They understand, even if subconsciously, that this is a woman who is discerning, who values herself, who doesn't settle. And when a man earns that softness, when he proves that he deserves it, it's like unlocking a treasure. The emotional investment skyrockets because it wasn't freely given. It was earned. This selectivity also applies towards attention and energy. A woman who spreads herself thin emotionally is often undervalued because people assume she's always available. But a woman who reserves her energy for those who truly matter projects a kind of quiet power. Men feel it. They are drawn to it. When a woman gives her attention intentionally, it communicates that she is in control of her emotions and her life. That control, paired with warmth, is seductive. There's also a sense of mystery and selective softness. Men want to know why she is soft for them, why she smiles that way, why she cares that much. They are drawn in because it is not automatic, it is earned. They realize that she is not like every other woman they've encountered. Her softness is rare, valuable, and something worth protecting. Men don't chase what is cheap or easy. They chase what is meaningful. And selective softness signals meaning. Selective softness doesn't mean withholding affection forever. It means choosing wisely when to be nurturing, when to open up, and when to share your emotional world. It means loving, but with wisdom. It means being gentle without being weak. And the combination of strength and carefully measured softness is a kind of dark feminine energy that men find hypnotic. In reality, a woman who masters selective softness doesn't just attract men. She commands respect, loyalty, and deep admiration. She teaches men that love and intimacy are not rights, they are rewards. And men, once they experience that, will never take it for granted. Her softness is her power. Her boundaries are her magnet. And together, they create a presence that men cannot resist. Fifth is independence with standards. Let me be real. Men respect women who don't need them financially, emotionally, or socially. But what really hooks them is a woman who chooses partnership, not survival. When you have standards and you're willing to walk away, if they're not met, a man knows he can't play with you. Let me tell you something that most women need to hear but don't. Men are naturally drawn to women who have their own lives, their own ambitions, and their own standards. A woman who is independent and self-sufficient isn't desperate. She doesn't beg for attention, affection, or validation. And when a man sees that, it changes everything. Independence isn't just about financial stability. It's about emotional, mental, and social self-reliance. It's about being complete as a person, knowing who you are, and living a life that doesn't revolve around someone else. And let me tell you, men can feel the difference. A woman with independence doesn't tolerate disrespect. She knows her worth, and she knows that she doesn't have to compromise her values or desires to keep someone around. Most men aren't used to this because many women settle too easily, give too much too soon, or tolerate behavior they should. But the woman who has standards and sticks to them sends a powerful message. I am worth the effort. If you want me in your life, you'll meet me on my level. And men can't resist that. They are wired to respect women who hold themselves with integrity. And nothing is more magnetic than a woman who refuses to lower her standards for anyone. Independence also shows in how a woman approaches her own life. She has goals. She has passions. She has dreams, and she works toward them relentlessly. She doesn't sit around waiting for someone to complete her or validate her existence. She creates her own happiness. And that energy is attractive because men instinctively want to be around people who are self-driven. When a man sees a woman who is confident in her purpose and capable of thriving without him, he becomes curious. He wants to be a part of that world, not because he needs to fix her, but because he wants to share in the life of someone remarkable. But independence without standards isn't enough. A woman who is independent but lacks boundaries or doesn't know her value can come across as unattached or careless. A woman with independence and standards, however, is intentional. She chooses carefully who she allows into her life. She doesn't settle for someone who doesn't respect her time, energy, or heart. She understands that relationships are partnerships, not dependencies. And that understanding makes a man work for her, not in a manipulative way, but because he genuinely wants to match the energy she brings to the table. Men are also drawn to women who refuse to chase. A woman who is independent and has standards doesn't panic when a man pulls away or doesn't text back immediately. She doesn't make herself emotionally available at all times. She maintains her composure, knowing that her value isn't dictated by someone else's attention. That composure is magnetic. Men instinctively recognize strength. They respect women who are firm in their standards, yet soft enough to love deeply when it's earned. Independence with standards also teaches men boundaries without confrontation. The woman who knows what she will and will not tolerate doesn't need to argue or prove herself. Her presence alone communicates expectations. And men, consciously or not, respond to this. They feel the challenge and are drawn in because they know that access to her world is not automatic. It is something they must earn through respect, effort, and consistency. In truth, men don't just want a woman who says she has standards. They want a woman who lives them. They want a woman whose independence is evident in her actions, in her decisions, and in the way she carries herself. When she combines that independence with clearly defined standards, she becomes irresistible. She isn't clingy. She isn't desperate. She isn't easily swayed. She is a force of nature that demands attention, admiration, and respect. And once a man experiences that energy, he will never forget it. And finally, inner power. This is the woman who has healed. She doesn't operate from wounds, jealousy, or fear. She knows her worth even when she's alone at night. That kind of woman changes a man, not by force, but by presence. Here's the truth: men don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with strength wrapped in mystery, softness guarded by self-respect, and confidence rooted in self-worth. That's dark feminine energy. And once a man experiences it, he never forgets it. Let me tell you something that most people overlook when talking about attraction. Men are drawn to women who carry inner power, and I'm not talking about being loud, controlling, or demanding. I'm talking about a woman who has healed, who knows her worth, who is unshakable in her confidence, and who operates from strength rather than fear. Inner power is a kind of energy that can't be faked. Men feel it instantly, even if they can't explain why. It's magnetic because it communicates stability, self-respect, and depth all at once. A woman with inner power has gone through life, faced challenges, and come out stronger. She doesn't let her past define her, but she hasn't ignored it either. She has learned from her experiences, healed from her wounds, and now moves through the world with wisdom. Men are drawn to this energy because it signals that she is complete. She doesn't need someone else to fill her voids or validate her existence. Her presence alone commands respect, admiration, and desire because it is grounded in something real, a deep understanding of herself. This inner power also manifests in emotional stability. A woman who has inner power can feel deeply without being controlled by her emotions. She can love without being dependent. She can stand her ground without being rigid. Men are attracted to women who can navigate life's highs and lows without chaos or drama because it shows maturity, intelligence, and self-control. When a man senses that a woman is not reactive, that she can handle challenges with composure, he is drawn to her in a way that goes beyond physical attraction. He respects her, and respect leads to deeper connection. Inner power also shows in boundaries. A woman with true inner strength knows what she will and will not tolerate. She doesn't compromise her values or allow disrespect in her life, but she does it with grace, not aggression. She sets her standards and expects them to be met, but she does so without fear or desperation. Men notice this immediately because it signals that she is worth the effort. When a woman communicates her boundaries through her actions and her energy, men naturally rise to meet them, and attraction grows stronger. Another critical aspect of inner power is self-awareness. A woman with inner power knows her strengths and weaknesses. She understands how she operates in relationships, in work, and in life. She doesn't pretend to be perfect, but she doesn't apologize for being powerful either. This self-awareness allows her to choose her relationships wisely. She doesn't waste time on people who drain her energy or fail to respect her. Men are drawn to this because they sense security in her energy. She isn't fragile or dependent. She is solid, and solid energy is magnetic. Inner power also means choosing when to give and when to withhold. A woman with inner strength doesn't give her love, attention, or intimacy freely to just anyone. She evaluates, she observes, she chooses carefully. Men are drawn to this because it creates value. When they earn her time, her energy, and her affection, they appreciate it more because it wasn't handed out lightly. That selectivity communicates that she respects herself, and respect is one of the most powerful attractors in any relationship. Finally, inner power is about presence. A woman with this energy doesn't seek validation or approval from anyone. She doesn't operate from fear, jealousy, or insecurity. She moves through the world with confidence, calm, and a deep sense of self. Men feel that presence immediately. It's not loud, it's not flashy. It's quiet, commanding, and undeniable. Inner power is the culmination of healing, confidence, emotional control, boundaries, self-awareness, and wisdom. It's what makes a woman unforgettable. Once a man experiences a woman with this kind of energy, he cannot stop thinking about her, and he cannot easily forget her.